post-COVID, so people were not really recruiting then. And then I didn't get any response or any mail until October of that same year. Like everyone searching for a job. I was in several group chats, but there was a post on graduate trainee for custodian. I was eligible, so I applied. The year was 2021 when I applied, and I think it was over 5 months because I applied somewhere between March and April. October, I got a mail for an online assessment, regular online assessment. So yeah, that was the first stage. After applying and uploading, then I was writing so many assessments together, and I was reading so many things. I was reading GMAT, Dragnet, but the structure was GMAT kind of structured. And I think the questions were about 100 questions.
Currently, is the assessment center still physical? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to anyone watching and to anyone who will still watch this. Welcome to another episode in the graduate training series where we interview folks who have gotten into different firms in the country through the graduate training route. Essentially, the graduate training route is just that provision by different firms in the country for folks who are just leaving school, who just finished serving, and they are about to start their career. And the major thing about graduate training is that you do not even need work experience to get into it. Just come out with good grades and you can push to get one. So today I would be speaking to Deborah of Custodian. Deborah, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. Good day, everyone. My name is Deborah, and I'm currently an insurance underwriter in Custodian and Allied Insurance.
Thank you very much. So just to cut to the chase, right, very fast. There is a point at which you knew about Custodian and the fact that there were GT roles opening up. I want to know how you came across that. That's the first question. Then the second question is that did you do anything specific on your CV to be called back?
Like everyone, I was like everyone searching for a job. I was in several group chats, and I cannot even remember the exact group chat, but there was a post on graduate trainee for custodian, so number of age and whatnot. I was eligible, so I applied, and yeah, that was how I got to know about. Also, I know about custodian. I've known about custodian before. I saw their graduate trainee adverts. I usually see the building, and then I think my dad had a policy with Crusader Sterling, so I knew about custodian that way. But I applied to the graduate trainee role through a post on the group chat, and yeah, that was it. So what did I do differently? So before then, I had applied to several places, and I was not getting past the notification that you applied and whatnot. Then I had to show like several persons my CV. Or what do you think? And I think the comments I was getting the most was try to make your CV sellable. Fine, you are just a recent graduate, does not mean blah blah blah. Try and upskill sell yourself well. And then that was what I did. My profile summary, my qualifications, the little experience I had as at then, I had to like make it sellable, use certain words to quantify my achievements as well. So yeah, that's it.
Cool. So one thing to take away from here is join community. I would always link our WhatsApp community in the
Right.
descriptions below, right? And the second thing is please just have a third party look at your CV. Let someone else with fresh eyes look at your CV, and there
Yeah.
is always something to improve there. Yeah, and it is not the time to be humble
Yeah.
to say, okay, if you know anything, you have to include it that you know it, just for you to
Actually,
put the best foot forward, right? So, between two questions again, Deborah, between the time you applied, right, and
yes.
when they got back to you, please, what was the time period? The first question. Then, what was the first stage when they got back to you? What did you do first within the assessment pipeline? Yeah.
Okay, so the year was 2021 when I applied, and I think it was over 5 months because I applied somewhere between March and April, and then I didn't get any response or any mail until
Mm.
October of that same year. So backstory, there were people on the group chat I was that had done their graduate training process before, and they were like, oh, that year was different. I think it was, yes, post-COVID, so people were not really recruiting then. So it was not, I think that was what caused that long, the time frame to be that long. Then October, I got a mail for an online assessment, regular online assessment. So yeah, that was the first stage. After applying and uploading a document, the first stage was an online assessment.
So, just to be very clear, right, and to help anyone listening, we had this discourse, and I just want to put it out to say that the application process for custodian between 2021 and 2025 has not really changed. In my video on KPMG. I also spoke to someone who got in 2021, and the point is the application process has not changed, because somebody starts watching this now and they hear 2021 and they're like, this is not relevant. It's not true. The application process hasn't really changed, and whatever you're hearing here is probably what you would meet whenever you are applying, right? And I think that's just very important to note. Now, going to the assessment, right?
Yes.
Do you remember the structure of your assessment? And you might want to speak to the application process between 2021 and now too, so that they can at least hear from you, not from me.
So for the application process, it still remains the same. There are other sets that have joined custodians through the same route I joined, and nothing has changed so far. Maybe the questions would have changed and whatnot, but it's still the same process. So the online assessment, I cannot really say what exact stuff was used, but because then I was writing so many assessments together and I was reading so many things. I was reading GMAT, Dragnet, but the structure was GMAT kind of structure. And I think the questions were about 100 questions. And one thing I remember vividly was it was timed. I think we had maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes. So everyone, I had to be very fast. It was online. My video didn't have to be on. So yeah, that was it for the online assessment.
Cool. And I think one thing when you're writing or when you're applying for GT rules is always that you're within that edge space where you know you're consistently writing different kinds of assessments, GMAT, SHL, Test Assessify,
Yes,
Jobama, name it.
actually, yeah,
Yeah, so
every
I,
single
I
thing.
know that it's a lot. It's a lot of demand on the brain, but again, it's an advantage because you do not really, if, for example, if you wrote
Yes, please.
KPMG's assessment last week and you're about to write custodian, both of them are GMAT. It's not like you're starting from scratch again, right? You've learned
Mm,
something, and then it's just to intensify efforts to study. And you would always see past questions in those community groups. I don't know
exactly.
how they find it. I don't know where they get it, but I know that they always get past questions across to each other,
Honestly,
right? So again, you might want to use that as
yes,
an advantage, right? When you're writing different kinds of assessment as at when you're starting out. And I think
absolutely.
for me, if you pass assessments, you have a very good chance to enter, because I think it's at assessment stage that a lot of people actually chalked off. A lot of people, almost half of the whole applicants are chalked off during the assessment stage.
Yes.
So after the assessment stage, please explain the next stage and your experience with the next stage to us.
So for me, the next stage was a physical assessment center test. So it's worthy to note that during my set, there were two online
Mhm.
assessments. So when I wrote my test in October, there was a mail to some other persons to write online assessment again in November. So then I was thinking, oh,
Mhm.
I was not qualified, or I was not moved to the next stage. However, somebody on our group then said, oh, when he did his own, I think 2019, when he did a GT assessment for custodian, it was just one assessment. So I don't know what happened. Maybe there was a glitch, or they were trying to like reduce the number of persons. So some persons had to write two online tests, but I wrote only one. And then I got a mail in December for a physical assessment center that was to hold in January. Yes, I got a mail middle of December 2021 to for an assessment center in January. Yeah.
Okay. So just to make it clear, right? You first wrote an assessment test, and then they called some sets.
Yes.
They
Yes.
called some specific set of people to write another one, but it wasn't general. And
Exactly.
then there were even some that wrote
No, it
the
wasn't.
second test that they didn't call back to come do the physical test. So and
Exactly.
there were
Yes.
people that, like you mentioned, there were people on the group that was saying that this wasn't normal. So I think the normal route for custodian would be write your assessment
Yeah,
test. If you pass, we'll get back to you to come do the physical test, irrespective of what happened in
exactly.
your set, where they called people again. It was just one of those peculiarities with that particular
One
year.
of,
It's
yeah,
not something that is consistent, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So, after the assessment, physical assessment. So, if it's a physical assessment now,
Yes.
just two or three questions. Where did it take place? What were the activities
Okay.
that happened during the assessment center? And what was your experience? Please, if you can be detailed, we would really like it because this is where the meat of the
All
whole
right.
interview is now.
Okay. Yeah. So after getting a mail, the location, like you asked, was Yaba, close to the head office. There was in the head office actually, but close to that area. Then
Okay.
activities, we were asked to bring our the physical copies of the uploaded documents that we uploaded during when we were registering or when we were applying for the job. So then I think there were different sets. There was the morning session and the afternoon session. I fell in the afternoon session. So before then, when I got my mail, I had ample time actually to prepare. So I reached out to an employee on LinkedIn and I asked her questions. Well, what do you think I should do? Because I observed that she also went in through the graduate trainee route. So I was like, oh, please, can you share
Mm-hmm.
something that helped you? Blah. And then she said, she just told me, the assessment, what she thinks they would be looking out for would be your confidence and how articulate you are. Then research about the insurance industry and do this and do that. Just basically showing your confidence and then your knowledge, the little knowledge you would have, of course, of the insurance industry. So I got there on time. So, backstory, like I said before, I was applying and at this point I was like, oh, I'm going to give it my all. Like, you are not going to tell me, oh, we don't want you. I'm the one that's going to say, I don't want this company. I have somewhere else. So I was really determined to like scale through the process. So when I got in by 12, there were a lot of persons too, physically, because the morning session were just concluding theirs. So we went in and then they verified our results, like cross-checked it with what was online. And then there were two stages in the physical assessment center. There was the personal and then the group. I really can't remember the personal area, but I know for the group, we're a group of 7 persons and there was a case study question where we had to deliberate amongst ourselves and like, do a presentation to the panel. So for me, it was quite scary kind of because the minds that I met there, I'm not even going to lie. I went to Delta State University and then I met half of the persons of my group and even in the assessment center were from Unilag and there was this myth of they're more exposed than you are and whatnot. But me, I was already determined that this one no is me that is going to choose. It's not people that is going to choose like say no, I don't want this
Yeah.
girl or whatnot. So I was really, really prepared. That's one thing I would like to know. I was really, really prepared. I gave it my all. I was like, how did I get in? That was like the mindset I went with. So the girl already told me how they would watch us. So for the group, I'll be explaining the group more because that's what I can remember. And that was like the most eventful part of the assessment center. So there was a panel of 4 persons, 3 men, and then 1 lady, and we were 7. So we were sitting opposite them. They were watching us deliberate. Funny enough. So there was a group leader. I volunteered to be an assistant group leader. And then the case study was about, I can't remember the case study, but it was about insurance. And me, I think I was the only one who had experience or who studied anything relating to the financial services industry on my panel. So I don't know if it was an advantage, but I don't think so. But I had prior knowledge about insurance because I did a course in it in school. So I just, everybody was deliberating. We're talking about it from the expo I got. I had to, um, project myself. I had to talk and deliberate. So we had to present and then just as we had planned, we allowed our presentation flow. So one person starts and the other person continues. Then when it was my turn, of course, I gave it the best that I could then. And then you could actually read the expressions. For me, I could read the expressions on the panelists and they were giving me some kind of go ahead. I was entering my brain and I was like, okay, let's
Yeah.
do this. So I did. And then I think so, yeah,
Yeah.
I think someone else rounded it up. Yeah, and that was it. And I think they asked us to wait somewhere else. They were going to get back to us or something. Yeah, that was how the physical assessment center went for us.
I mean, that was quite an experience. And
Yeah,
I
actually.
always tell people in my community, whenever they call me about, they have an interview or they have assessment centers and all of these things. And I'm like, well, you just have to be focused 100% of the time, because whatever you discuss in group assessments, they might ask you questions about it. You might have to do personal presentations and all of those things. And when you also get to group presentations, don't do like you know everything. Work with a team. That's why it's grouped.
Mm,
It's group. Work with a team. You're not expected
exactly.
to have five answers because there are five people in the group. You are expected to have one answer because you've worked as a team within the group. And yes, you just have to know
Exactly.
how to
Yes.
work in a team if you work anywhere. So yeah, what was the time duration? Do you, when I mean duration, did you like get to the place like 8 a.m. you leave 4 p.m. or what was the time duration for the
Oh,
physical assessment?
I don't think it was more than an hour because if I remember correctly, by past four, though I stay on the mainland as well, so by past four, I was home already. So I think when we started around
Oh,
two, we
okay.
started exactly to the checking of document stuff was before 2 p.m. because I mean everybody was around. So yes, it was not more than an hour. I think our group presentation, that is what I can remember very well, was like 10 minutes. We had 10 to 15 minutes to present and then we had 10
Okay.
minutes to deliberate amongst ourselves. So yes.
One question, the last question about this part of the process. Currently, is the assessment center still physical?
Yes, it's still physical, yes. Because I remember some of my teammates had to like, not this year though. Yeah, they had to go and conduct
Okay.
assessment center. So yes, the assessment center is still physical.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, because just needed to get that out there to say that if you're going to be applying to Custodian and you're in Enugu, I'm afraid you might want to be looking at coming down to Lagos for the physical assessment. So after the physical assessment, what was now the next stage?
Yeah, so the next stage was an online interview, think management staff. Yes. An online interview with management
Okay.
staff.
So the interview with management staff, please give us a detailed experience about that. Because one thing I understand with management level interview is that they don't come, I do not know about your experience, but the ones I've seen,
Okay.
they do not come with
Okay.
written interviews to say that, okay, if in case somebody leaves, in case your leader is out of the organization, what will you do? I don't think they come like that. They just come with the intention of knowing you and seeing if you're a cultural fit. And so the conversation it could go anywhere, right? That's been the experience I have had and the ones that some of my folks have actually gone to. But we'll be interested to hear the custodian experience.
So for the online interview, for it was spontaneous really. We all didn't know what to
Hmm.
expect. Some persons did their own and they asked them these questions. Some persons did their own and they asked them other things. So for me, it was just, oh, let me get to know you. Tell us about yourself. Ah, I am this, I am that, I am this. And then tell us about yourself. Then your qualifications as well. Oh, what did you study? Where did you do your NYSC? Stuffs like that. They asked that question. Oh, then the only technical question I can remember them asking me was about Excel. So the man then was like, "Oh, what would you score yourself over 10 as an Excel, an expert on Excel and whatnot?" Of course, I told them I could use Excel very well. I mean, I could not, though. I could use Excel, but not like I was projecting. And I said, "Oh, I'll give myself a 7 over 10." And the man now asked me just one very, I can't remember the question, but it was very simple. I did not know the answer. I did not tell them that I did not know the answer because I mean, remember I already said, is either I get in or I get in. So I just said, I gave one very random. He asked me about a shortcut for something. And I just gave him a very random answer, very confidently. And he was like, Deborah, are you sure of your answer? I said, yes, I am very sure. That is what it is.
Interesting.
Ah, and he just said, they were smiling. So I was wondering, I was like, hey, God, I've already, and he was like, no, that's not the answer. And he told me the answer. I said, oh, I think I mixed it up with something. And I was like, well, it's fine. I like how you confidently pushed yourself, regardless of me asking you again. I was
Mm,
like, so then they asked, okay, then I was a graduate intern somewhere and they asked questions. Then they asked me what I knew about the insurance industry and insurance itself.
mm,
So of course I had researched about that one and I did talk about what I
mhm.
knew. and whatnot. And they asked me where I would like to be because there's life assurance, and then there's general insurance. So they asked, oh, where would you like to work? What do you know about this company that you have chosen? So I said, oh, I would like to work in general business, and that's because I feel like, oh, a lot of Nigerians don't know about. I shall just said a lot of plenty things I can usually do. And then you're like, okay, you know about underwriting and claims, right? Okay, what part of it do you think would fit your personality? And I said, oh, underwriting, I'd like to. Prior to now, I didn't know what prior to then rather, I didn't know what underwriting was. I just had to research online about underwriting. I was like, okay, this is what it is. This looks like something that I would like. And then I said, and they're like, okay, that will be
Mm.
all. The HR2 was in the meeting, and that was it really for me. I
Okay.
didn't even take that. I think my own was not up to 20 minutes or so, just very fast.
Well, there is something about top management level interview that has been consistent through conversations I've had with people I've had interviews with, and it's that at
Okay.
least there's always one question that you're not going to know that they are going to ask you. There
Yes.
is one
Actually,
question
yes. I agree.
that and and for the fact that they still got in, irrespective of fumbling at those questions, is what makes me say to anyone that, see, you just need to walk into this interview with confidence. They know you don't know shit. They know you
Yes.
don't really know much. They know that they would
Actually,
have to
because what
groom
would you
you
know?
to a certain level before they start handling
Yes.
responsibilities over to you. They
Exactly.
just want to know that when you're coming in as a graduate trainee, your mind is robust enough to accommodate knowledge. The second thing is you're ready. You're ready to
Exactly.
chest whatever they throw at you. Right. And so you don't even need to
Exactly.
know. You
That's
just
very
need
correct.
to be able to absorb, right? And that's what they want to know. So when they ask you questions and then you give
Yes.
an attempt, it's enough, right? You don't need to get the whole 1 plus 1 is
Yes,
2. If you
actually.
say 1 plus 1 is this, and then you explain your rationale and all of that, they know that they can work on the rationale to improve it, but you don't always have to be correct. And to be fair, what does an entry level career professional wants to
So,
prove to 15 years in experience, right? There is literally nothing you want to tell them. So,
actually, yes.
so I
Okay.
mean, just
I agree with
approach
you
this top
100%.
management level confidently. Let them know
Yeah.
that you're ready to learn. Let them know that you're a self-starter. Let them know that you can take initiative by thinking. Let them know that you want to think, you want to make use of your brain, not just I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And of course, if there are ones that you don't know
Exactly.
and you don't even have an attempt, well, you might want to say something and say, see, I think I do not know this, but I would be glad to understand what your perspective is about it. It even shows
Honestly,
that
don't just be glad.
yeah, yeah, it just shows that
You're
you
ready to
want to
learn.
get something out of them. So yeah, I think I,
Yes.
I like this experience. And to be honest, it's not even a random experience. I
Yes.
I think in Flower Mills he mentioned it, in Access Bank he mentioned it. I think the one in
Exactly.
KPMG, it was also mentioned, right? So for everyone I'd spoken to, most of the time, 80% of the time, there's always that question that they didn't know. So do you still have anything to say about the top management level interview, or this we should go to the next step?
For me, I think that would be all. Just to be confident, very confident. I mean,
Okay,
they're just like your
okay.
quote and unquote, your
So
fathers.
was it,
They just want to see, let me see what you're doing. Yeah.
mm, was it after the top management level interview that you now got your final offer, or was there something in between?
Yes, we are called to pick up our offer, and then that same day, I think we did our medicals too. Or they gave us a time frame to do the medicals. Yes.
So thank you very much. So in a wrap, right, it's that you write an assessment
Yeah.
test, you get called for a physical interview,
Yes.
assessment center, you do group
Yes.
presentation and personal presentation and all of those things, and then you do a final
Exactly.
top management level interview, and then you do medicals, and
Mm.
then you pick up your offer.
Yes.
Now with
Actual
benefit of
employment.
hindsight, you've been working in the firm now for a while, 2021, 2022, right? So that's 3, 4 years.
2022.
What
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
what would be your final word for someone that wants to apply for the GT program in Custodian?
So, the first thing is come with an open mind. I did not envision seeing myself. I never in my wildest imagination thought that I would work in an insurance company for any reason because I thought insurance was a scam or is a scam in Nigeria. A lot of persons still have that mindset. So come with an open mind. Then number two would be still relating to your mind, have a separate mindset. There are a lot of persons that I felt could have gotten in, even from our physical assessment, because from our physical assessment, I think just okay, no, five of us got in to the graduate trainee stuff. And one thing that was consistent with everybody was the mindset that we had. Oh, I am here to do this. I am going to work to get what I want or what I wanted. I was going to be focused. The mindset that, oh, I used to have the mindset that you have to know somebody to know somebody to know somebody to know somebody before you get into some kind of organizations. But over time, aside even custodian, I can see that with grit and then hard work and then focus and then the right mindset too, you would get into almost anywhere in Nigeria. As bad as we think the system is, people are actually getting jobs on a daily basis and they don't know anybody. So have that. Then be hardworking as well. For the first period of my job search, I was just this lazy person who was thinking that it will come to my laps. It is me. I went to school. I graduated. That's enough for anybody to employ me. But you had to work hard. You had to do things
Mm-hmm.
out of the ordinary and then ensure that,
Yeah.
yes. Then last thing will be don't isolate yourself from information. I did that a lot, even in school. As even I had known, I'd have started applying from, because I
It's just at this point that we say that thank you to everyone that has watched. Thank you so much, Deborah, for doing this. We really appreciate. And again, just lock in. Try to apply to as much as possible. It's a numbers game. And I think 1 year can actually change the course of your life and your career. So till we see again in the next graduate trainee series, where I get to interview folks who have gotten into firms through the graduate trainee route. Thank you very much. Bye.